You're watching Republic.
Good evening and welcome. You're watching Looking Forward with me, Shavan Sen. Hope you had a great Sunday, and now it's time to look forward to the coming week. Welcome back to this week's edition of Looking Forward. This show is all about stories that are shaping up over the coming days and weeks. News that is developing and would have consequences for your life as well as mine, and the impact that it would have on our choices. Stories that shape India's and world's politics and economics going forward. So let's get going. Tonight's edition brings together four very significant stories that will set the pace for the weeks and months ahead. Story number one takes us to Ayodhya, where after nearly 5 centuries, the Ram Janmabhoomi temple complex nears its grand completion. On 25th of November, the historic flag hoisting ceremony will take place, which will be led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi alongside revered saints and national leaders, marking a civilizational milestone. We bring you the devotion, the celebration and the legacy behind being forged in Ayodhya. Our next story centers on India's maritime transformation with the commissioning of INS Mahi, a cutting-edge shallow-water warfare vessel at the Mumbai's naval dockyard on 26th of November. Built with over 90% indigenous content as part of Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, INS Mahi boosts India's coastal security and signals a major leap in maritime self-reliance amid rising Indo-Pacific tension. Our next story covers the Jakarta-New Delhi defense corridor heating up as Indonesia's defense minister arrives in India to push for the BrahMos missile deal. Since its battlefield demonstration in Operation Sindoor, BrahMos has become the world's most sought-after supersonic cruise missile. We look at how this deal could reshape regional security dynamics from the Malacca Strait to the South China Sea. And finally, our story number 4, which brings us to Geneva, where the clock ticks down to US President Donald Trump's 27th of November deadline for a Ukraine peace deal. The contentious 28-point plan is under discussion between the E3 delegation and EU partners, but progress has stalled amid cold winter offensives and divergent red lines. As the war nears its 4th year, the world awaits whether peace can be forged, it can be negotiated or deferred into an uncertain future. Let's begin with the headlines as we always do. Israeli Defense Forces confirms a recent strike in the southern suburbs of Beirut targeted senior Hezbollah leader Haytham Ali Tabatabai. Israeli officials say he served as the terror group's de facto chief of staff and is considered the number 2 figure after Secretary General Naim Qassem. Mortal remains of Wing Commander Namanch Sayal, who died in the Tejas crash at the Dubai Air Show on Friday, cremated with full military honours in the presence of hundreds of people, including Indian Air Force officials and political leaders in his native Patialkar village of Himachal Pradesh's Kangra district. Pakistan's latest attempt to circulate misinformation about India backfires once again. French Navy publicly debunks article by Pakistani journalist Habib Mir. The report claimed that a French naval officer had confirmed that Pakistan's air superiority over India during May 2025 conflict.
अरे चुनाव में चलते रहता है भाई, चुनाव में ऐसी सब बातें करते रहते हैं, इसका कोई अर्थ नहीं होता है। देखिए, मैं आपको इतना ही कहना चाहता हूँ, चुनाव के बाद सभी शहरों का विकास हमको करना है। अब मैं भी कहीं जाऊंगा तो मैं भी बोलूंगा कि मुझे चुन कर दोगे तो मैं ज्यादा पैसा आपको दूंगा, बोलना ही पड़ता है।
Amid huge row over his "you have votes and I have funds" remark to voters in Maharashtra's Malegaon, Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar clarified, saying statement was no threat. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis dismisses the controversy, saying such comments are often made during elections. Amid persistent speculation over a possible change of Chief Minister in Karnataka, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge says party high command will take a call, adding that he had nothing to say now. His comments comes a day after his meeting with Siddaramaiah. Ladies and gentlemen, for nearly 5 centuries, the exact spot in Ayodhya believed to be Lord Ram's birthplace remained at the heart of a bitter dispute. But today, scores of devotees flock to the city with not just with devotion in their hearts, but with also hope. Almost 2 years since the Ram temple consecration ceremony, 25th of November marks the day when it's going to be full completion will take place, the grand flag hoisting ceremony that will formally complete the temple complex. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be leading the rituals, joined by RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, and hundreds of revered saints. What began as a legal verdict in 2019 has become a civilizational turning point. Here's what we look forward to in Ayodhya.
पारतंत्र में जीना पड़ा, धर्मस्थलों की सब बातों की हानि हुई, जबरदस्ती मतांतरण होने लगा, ये सब था, तब भी भारत था। वो वैभव के दिन नहीं रहे, वो आक्रमण के दिन भी चले गए। अब राम मंदिर पर झंडा फहराने वाले हैं। तब भी भारत था, अब भी भारत है।
From the banks of the Saryu, pulsing through India's ancient heart, a story that's waited centuries is unfolding. The Ram Janmabhoomi temple in Ayodhya will raise its saffron flag on the 25th of November. Far beyond a mere ritual, this moment marks the triumphant conclusion of a sacred saga spanning generations of devotion.
The Hindu civilization has been under attack for almost 1,000 years, especially by the brutal, barbaric Islamic invasion, and thereafter by the European, that's British, Portuguese, Dutch, and French. And especially for this Bhagwan Sri Ram temple at the birthplace of Bhagwan Ram, the Hindus have been fighting for nearly 550 odd years, and thousands have laid their life for this moment. So it's a matter of great pride for all the Hindus residing wherever geographically we have more than 120 Hindus living across the world. It's a matter of great pride, and it's a clear message that we will come what may be. The Islamic forces and the barbaric evangelical forces have ensured that they eliminated many civilizations. But our Hindu civilization is here to stay. That's the message.
The trace of this thread goes back 5 centuries. The site, revered as Lord Ram's birthplace, became a flashpoint of faith and contention. Legal battles spanned decades, culminating in the 2019 Supreme Court verdict clearing the way for construction.
राम जी चले न हनुमान के बिना, दुनिया चले न श्री राम के बिना, राम जी चले न हनुमान के बिना.
Ground broke in 2020, and by the 22nd of January in 2024, Prime Minister Modi consecrated the idol of Ram Lalla in the sanctum, a black marble throne amid pink sandstone walls. And now, the temple stands complete. A Nagara-style masterpiece, 250 feet long and 360 feet wide. Its main spire piercing 161 feet skyward. The hoisting on Viva Panchami, marking Ram and Sita's union. The 5-day Vedic prelude will wrap with a final aarti for the flag, a 21-foot saffron banner embroidered with Om and the sacred Kovidar tree. The hoisting is to commence between 11:58 am and 1 pm atop the temple's commanding spire. The city has adapted seamlessly. Traffic has been diverted from key routes, heavy vehicles barred, streets swept clean under a blanket of security. Lakhs of devotees are projected with enclosures for saints and seers, plus global live feeds on massive screens. At the ceremony's core is Prime Minister Narendra Modi returning to Ayodhya.
जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई, राम सिया राम जय जय राम.
He is not new to this Ram Janmabhoomi movement, and post 2014 we have seen the fast track courts also, and the decision coming in favor of the honorable coming in favor of Bhagwan Sri Ram temple, and Sri Narendra Modi ji as the Prime Minister ensured that he took keen interest in the rebuilding and the construction of the temple, and he was there during the pujan, Bhumi Pujan, during all the sacred rituals. So it gives a clear message that this present government is not only going to take care of the infrastructural development, building roads and building other, creating employment, but at the same time, there will be no compromise as far as our indigenous dharma is concerned, our Hindu dharma is concerned.
His presence is much national as it is spiritual. For the crowds, it's a shared pulse.
I believe that Rama Janma Bhoomi, earlier it's Prana Pratishtha, now the Dvajarohana, all this herald something very positive, something very prosperous for Bharata Desham on the whole. And to see the elected, of course, extremely popular, Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Damodar Das Modi, Narendra ji leading it in the forefront, signifies that even if you are an elected Prime Minister, you can be a person who desires prosperity for all, for the entire society that comprises people belonging to different faiths. Yet you don't have to feel apologetic about your own faith. That's something that I have personally liked about the Prime Minister, that he is not apologetic about his religion. He is a Hindu. He says, yes, I am a Hindu, I go to temples. He goes to very many temples. Whichever place he goes, he visits the temple of that region. He follows all the customs of that particular region, respects the language of that region. So that's very important.
This historic event is expected to drive Ayodhya's tourism. In the first half of 2025 alone, 23 crore devotees crossed these sacred thresholds, a staggering leap from just 1.78 crore visitors back in 2017. The forecast is a doubling of footfall to 50 crores by year's end, injecting billions into Uttar Pradesh's economy and creating thousands of jobs in hospitality, transport and local crafts. From revamped airports and high-speed rail links to eco-friendly ghats along the Sarayu River, Ayodhya's infrastructure is primed for the spiritual surge. As November 25th dawns, the Dvajarohan ceremony will etch another line in Ayodhya's timeless scroll.
When history is written, when history is recorded, say 100 years later, 200 years later, the generations who will live then in Bharatadesha will know that Sanatana Dharma, which is known as Hinduism worldwide today, has been a religion that has lived and allowed the others to live, has always pursued the path of mutual tolerance and mutual respect. But at the same time, we as a civilization have been very strong in telling that if you do something by force on us, we are not going to take it. So this Rama Janmabhoomi temple is going to be a standing testimony to the very fact that Hindus are extremely tolerant, very respectful, very forgiving of others. But at the same time, if they believe that there is injustice, they will fight back. So this shall stand as a tower of justice that was served, delivered, and withstood the onslaught of tyranny for generations. And this temple will tell the future generations, the current generations, the forthcoming, the future generations, that if need be, we can fight back.
The weight, woven through courtrooms and karsevaks, finds its flourish. A civilizational milestone witnessed by a nation that has long waited to blend its Hindu cultural roots. India looks forward as Ayodhya rises, a city reborn, a centuries-old promise fulfilled.
In the midst of India's maritime transformation, against a backdrop of rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific and the Indian Ocean, Indian Navy is set to commission INS Mahi, a groundbreaking shallow water warfare vessel at Naval Dockyard, Mumbai on 26th of November. Built entirely by the Cochin shipyard with over 90% indigenous content, this moment carries huge strategic weight as India emerges as a formidable maritime power, adding one warship to its fleet every 40 days. While adversaries watch cautiously, we explore why INS Mahi's induction redefines India's coastal security, operational reach, and standing in global power dynamics.
In the waters of the Arabian Sea, India's naval renaissance takes a decisive leap forward. A 78-meter warship designed, built, and crafted entirely by Indian hands is about to join the Indian Navy's battle fleet. Her name is INS Mahi, a vessel that embodies Atmanirbhar Bharat, a symbol of India's unshakable resolve to master its own maritime journey. Built by Kochi Shipyard, Limited in Kochi, INS Mahi boasts over 90% indigenous content, a staggering engineering triumph that shatters the myth of India's dependence on foreign warship builders. From 130 vessels in 2020 to 145 today, and a targeted surge to over 200 by 2035. At a pace of one of new ship every 40 days, the Indian Navy has the fastest commissioning rate in the world. This isn't just fleet expansion, it's a maritime revolution. At 78 meters, INS Mahi is compact but mighty. Propelled by a revolutionary diesel engine waterjet combination, making her the largest diesel waterjet warship ever built by India. Designed for shallow water operations, coastal patrols, anti-submarine warfare, and low-intensity maritime operations, INS Mahi is the first of the 8 class of ships planned to defend India's coasts. The Urumi, A legendary Kalaripayattu sword adorns INS Mahi's crest, symbolizing speed, precision, and lethality, three qualities that define INS Mahi's operational ethos. In many ways, this ship represents a watershed moment in India's quest for complete maritime self-reliance.
With this, induction of the latest anti-submarine warfare shallow water crafts, which are very, very important for coastal security and for looking after anti-mining effort of the enemy. A lot of other assets are dedicated towards doing this kind of jobs. Otherwise, actually, this can be done by helicopters, this can be done by the anti-submarine warfare ships. But since these are shallow water crafts, they do not have much draft. So it is much easier to sanitize the approaches to the harbors, and that is how you make the harbor absolutely safe for the warships or for the merchant navy or the merchant ships which keep on entering and leaving the ports, and a lot of economy depends upon that. So this is a very, very, this is a work in progress for India, and it's happening. And you see it, we are the 4th, 5th largest navy in the world, and all these assets are required, and they are joining us slowly and steadily. We are already, as you know it, almost around 56 ships are under construction in India in various shipyards. And all this is adding on to our effort. And this is where the national security comes in, where a lot of other assets, which otherwise would have been used for all these duties, will now be assigned to do their specific tasks. And these kind of ships, which is 8 being made by Cochin and 8 being made by Calcutta, will be utilized for sanitizing and doing the anti-submarine warfare around the coast, because wherever the depths are little less, these assets will be doing the job of anti-submarine warfare.
INS Mahi isn't just another warship. It's a game changer for coastal security, designed to operate in the treacherous shallow waters where 70% of maritime threats originate. The Indian Ocean, a highway of global commerce where 30% of maritime trade flows, and where tensions brew daily between rising powers, INS Mahi stands as India's sentinel, guarding crucial choke points from the Gulf to the Malacca Strait. While China dominates with over 370 vessels, India is accelerating production, with plans to add 55 ships in the next decade, positioning Delhi as the Indo-Pacific's emerging naval superpower. By 2035, India will rival Japan and challenge regional hegemons.
You see, with the evolving maritime challenges in the Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal, and especially South Pacific Sea, we need to strengthen our coastal waters, because we find that there are the strong presence of Chinese submarines, especially in the Arabian Sea, because of their frequent visits to Gwadar port, which is in Pakistan. And then we also see the activity of the Pakistan Navy in the Arabian Sea, being our neighbor. So therefore, the security grid of our coast, or the coastal defense network, needs to be strengthened. And I feel that with the induction of INS Mahi, which is an anti-submarine warfare vessel, especially operating in the shallow waters, it will be a great asset in the defense of our western and eastern seaboards. So this is one of the requirements that we had, because today we find that the Chinese submarine force, or their sea arm, is getting stronger, and we have to defend our coastal lines both on east and western coastline.
India's naval renaissance isn't defensive anymore. It's assertive. Every ship, like Mahi, sends a message. India will shape the Indo-Pacific, not merely respond to it. Within the Quad, INS Mahi joins a constellation of allied warships. Together, they represent a counterbalance to Chinese naval expansion.
We have already started. We have the carriers now. INS Vikrant is the latest induction in the Indian Navy. We are also building our submarines like the Sirihant and Arihant. And therefore, I think that with this ship, which is a blend of stealth, speed, and accuracy, all mixed together, makes it adds to the teeth of the Indian Navy, because it adds to the power, the naval projection power into in the world around, in our neighbors especially. It acts as a deterrent for them, because it is again what you call is the power projection of our Indian Navy, because this is the first vessel, of course, in the series of 8 such anti-submarine shallow water crafts that we are going to make. And the size, if I look at the size, the corvette size, which is in between your frigate and the destroyer, it is neither very small nor very large. So therefore, it's very versatile. And when we induct such vessels into our naval force, they are definitely noted by the hostile nations out here, Pakistan and China in particular.
From Kochi to Mumbai to Port Blair, INS Mahi's integrated systems will link with India's expanding coastal surveillance network, creating an impenetrable maritime domain awareness. India's maritime domain, spanning 2.2 million square kilometers of EEZ, was once underprotected. INS Mahi and her 7 sister ships to follow close that vulnerability. With the addition of 1 ship every 40 days, a pace that reshapes the balance of power, by 2035, India's fleet will rival China's in operational sophistication, if not raw numbers.
Well, any asset which has been thought over by the Indian Navy or by the Government of India, by the Ministry of Defence, which is coming out now, has got a specific role. And of course, it will leverage the overall power of the Indian Navy. So we can't say that, this asset will not contribute. Every asset contributes, and it will leverage the whole capability and capacity. This is where everything is enhancing, and will certainly, have an effect, because we, as a country, as a Navy, a very, very potent Navy, Indian Navy. So if we have all the kinds of assets which are required for making a very, very effective warfighting machinery, this is another addition to it, another accretion to it.
52 warships currently under construction in Indian shipyards. Every one is built by Indian brains, Indian hands, Indian steel. This is Atmanirbhar Bharat in motion, not rhetoric, but reality. INS Mahi isn't just a warship. She's a declaration that India relies on no one to guard its seas and shores. Because now in the open waters, she sails not just for commerce or security, but for India's maritime future. Resplendent, self-reliant, unbreakable.
In the midst of India's defense renaissance, against a backdrop of shifting power in the Indo-Pacific, Indonesia's defense minister lands in New Delhi this week with a prime objective, the BrahMos deal. Since Operation Sindoor, India's supersonic cruise missile has become the hottest ticket in the global arms market, faster, deadlier and more versatile than its rivals. As Jakarta and New Delhi move closer to a multi-$100 million deal, this isn't just about hardware. It's about India's rise as a defense manufacturing power, the changing map of Asian security, and how BrahMos could actually redraw the deterrence from the Malacca Strait to the South China Sea. Here's a detailed report.
From the deserts of Rajasthan to the waters of the Arabian Sea, Operation Sindoor has turned BrahMos from a test-range missile into a battlefield legend. The world watches as India's homegrown supersonic cruise missile shredded hardened targets with surgical precision. And since then, phones at BrahMos Aerospace haven't stopped ringing. Now, one of those calls has brought Indonesia's Defense Minister Shafri Shamsuddin to New Delhi for a 3-day visit from November 26th to November 28th. On his agenda, talks with Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. On the table, a potential $600 to $800 million deal that could arm Jakarta with one of the fastest and most feared cruise missiles on planet Earth. At nearly 3 times the speed of sound, BrahMos is not just fast, it's unforgiving. A 290+ kilometer strike window, sea-skimming flight profile and pinpoint accuracy make interception nearly impossible. For adversaries, detection is seconds, reaction time is near zero.
There is an old adage, seeing is believing. When the results speak for themselves, then everybody wants to buy this missile. And why is that so? You know, we had hit in Op Sindoor 11 to 12 air bases, 4 to 6 radars and 2 command and control centers. And wherever we employed this missile, it proved to be highly accurate and it was unstoppable. And why was it so? If you look at Rahim Yar Khan, it is still in ICU. It's 6 months and more since the day we had attacked Rahim Yar Khan with this missile. That is BrahMos, which is a supersonic missile and a cruise missile, which means that this missile follows a profile which is very difficult to detect. After its launch, it gets back down on ground between 3 to 30 meters, which means it is following nap of the earth. And the radars, which were Chinese or Americans, could not pick it up till very, very close distances. And those radars that are meant to pick it up like stealth aircraft, they could not pick up this missile because of this low profile, as well as it had a low radar cross section, which means the signature that it paints on the radar is extremely low.
Philippines is one country which has already purchased BrahMos missile from us in 2022. Now you see a lot of interest shown by other countries. And as far as Indonesia, Malaysia and Vietnam are concerned, this is an advanced stage of sort of purchasing this BrahMos missile. In addition to that, Latin America country, Middle East countries are also showing interest. So therefore, the point today is you find BrahMos is becoming very, very important and potent weapon in the world around, having seen its capability, especially in Operation Sindoor. A lot of countries are now showing interest to buy this, and India now can truly say that if we are the one of the countries in the world which are manufacturing not only for itself but for the world, and we are becoming in the first 25 countries of exporter list.
Defense experts say that after Operation Sindoor, global buyers saw what brochures couldn't show: real-time destruction. Compared to many subsonic rivals, BrahMos compresses enemy decision time, making it an ultimate deterrent. The Philippines became the first foreign customer in 2022, inducting a BrahMos coastal battery with USD $370 million bill, instantly upgrading its deterrence in the West Philippine Sea. Reports say that Vietnam is weighing a similar battery for around $700 million. And now Indonesia, the guardian of the Malacca Strait, is next in line.
There is a very important thing. This missile is not unidimensional. It is multidimensional, which means it can be launched from ground on based a modified Tatra truck, which has 3 canisters on it, which are arranged in a triangular fashion. and it is mobile. They can go and launch from any place. It takes very less time to set it up and launch the missile from there, which means when the army uses a land attack version and it is within about 50 to 100 kilometers of the border, it can still go inside 150 to 200 kilometers and go and hit at any of the targets in tactical battle area.
All these countries which are Southeast Asia countries, which are victim of, you can say, that power of China, especially in Indo-Pacific, are depending on India to get more weapons, and especially they're buying BrahMos. And in addition to BrahMos, there are many other weapons which also being purchased by these countries from India, like small arms, you can say certain life jackets which have been bought, ammunition has been bought of small arms and artillery, ATAGS, basically advanced towed artillery system. Again, a lot of interest is being shown in aircraft of Tejas Mark 1 Alpha, and now further it will become 2. There again the interest has been shown. So overall one can say all these countries in Southeast Asia and Asian countries, they are now equipping and arming themselves, and majority of them are buying Indian armament.
Each export isn't just business, it's a strategic marker. Every coastal battery from Manila to Jakarta adds another layer of difficulty for any navy seeking to dominate Asian waters. This is Indonesia's second serious attempt at BrahMos. In 2020, the then Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto, who now is the Prime Minister, wanted to buy the system, but pandemic budgets killed the deal. In 2024, India waived a $450 million line of credit to sweeten the offer for the Indonesians. And now, with a fully functional BrahMos line in Lucknow, churning out missiles at an unprecedented scale, the economics are finally favoring a closure of the deal.
See, India has traditionally been an arms importer because our productions was less and our requirements were high. But in recent times, India has emerged as a significant arms exporter, and BrahMos is, of course, the most sophisticated weapon system that India has exported. So export of BrahMos missiles is a very, very significant milestone for Indian arms industry.
From buyer to supplier, from license-built imports to exporting flagship missiles, BrahMos symbolizes India's leap into the top league of arms exports. In a crowded market of cruise missiles, many are subsonic, slower, easier to track. Chinese systems like YJ-12 may rival BrahMos in speed, but come wrapped in geopolitical contexts that most nations wish to avoid. India, by contrast, offers high-end technology without strategic strings attached, making BrahMos the clean and the credible choice.
Atmanirbharta is a very, very significant factor as far as defense industry is concerned, and Prime Minister Modi's main focus when he talked of Make in India has been the defense sector. And BrahMos is actually a significant pointer in that direction. BrahMos is actually a collaboration between India and Russia. So as far as Russia is concerned, our collaboration continues, and it will be a very, very significant collaboration as far as BrahMos is concerned. As far as other countries are concerned, we are still importing weapon systems from them. We have imported Rafale from France. We've just signed a major defense deal with US. So we will keep importing the weapon systems which are not available indigenously. But at the same time, we'll build up our indigenous capability and probably export it to those countries which need this sort of weapon systems, because our systems are far more cost effective for any country in the world than the Western or Chinese or Russian weapon systems.
Indonesia sits astride on one of the planet's most important choke points, the Malacca Strait. Nearly 40% of global maritime trade brushes its shores. Yet Chinese grey zone tactics, illegal fishing fleets, and growing naval presence in nearby South China Sea have sharpened Jakarta's threat perceptions. A BrahMos coastal battery on Sumatra or Natuna Island doesn't just defend beaches. It can, in crisis, close a strait for any hostile navy. It is a true nightmare scenario. For Indonesia's armed forces, BrahMos would be both a sword and a shield, a tool to signal this far and no further. to any power tempted to test its resolve. Already, India and Indonesian troops train together with exercise Garuda Shakti on land, Samudra Shakti at sea, and Indo Corpat along shared waters. A BrahMos deal would turn these drills into something deeper: shared deterrence.
Southeast Asian countries have been facing certain problems with China, especially with respect to 9-dash line, which actually expands China's maritime spheres considerably. And countries like Philippines, Indonesia, etc., acquiring BrahMos will be a significant value addition for these countries, and it will significantly enhance their defense preparedness for dealing with any eventuality that may arise in future.
Strategically, an Indonesian BrahMos battery is a message to Beijing. India isn't just guarding its own waters, it is quietly arming like-minded partners at China's periphery. As Indonesia's defense minister walks into the South Block, this is no routine visit. If the deal is sealed, one missile will redraw maps, linking Delhi to Jakarta and tightening the noose on aggression in the Indo-Pacific. In the age of great power rivalry, this is how quiet partners and one supersonic missile changes the entire game.
In the shadow of frozen battlefields and fractured alliances against a backdrop of escalating winter offensives and diplomatic brinkmanship, President Donald Trump's self-imposed 26th of November deadline looms for a Ukraine peace deal, once he promised to seal in a day. Today in Geneva, G3 envoys huddled with EU partners over the contentious 28-point plan amid stalled talks since the Alaska summit and mounting pressure from Kiev, Moscow and Brussels. As the war enters its fourth year, nearing another grim anniversary, questions are essentially being raised once again whether at all this entire 28-plan deal is essentially going to work or not. You've already heard what the Ukrainian president had to basically indicate, saying that this happens to be one of the toughest moments. This was just said in the backdrop of the push that has basically come in. This isn't just a deadline. It's a high-stake gamble that could freeze the front lines, redraw borders, or even ignite further chaos ahead of Thanksgiving and Christmas. But the never one question remains, can there be a peace? And what exactly does it really mean for Ukraine? Because all that they have essentially been indicating is that in this particular plan, there is nothing that guarantees the security of Ukraine. And it seems that it is almost a win for Russian President Vladimir Putin. The very fact that his aggression seems to have now been rewarded by United States of America. So how exactly would the Ukrainians really navigate this entire issue, and whether at all there can be a plausible peace in line?
From the blood-soaked fields of Donbass to the fog-shrouded halls of Geneva, today marks a pivotal clash in the quest for Ukraine's peace. E3 delegations representing the United Kingdom, France and Germany will meet EU and US partners to salvage President Trump's 28-point plan. But with November 27 deadline ticking, the war Trump vowed to end smoothly enters its fourth year. Nearing another anniversary under his watch, the progress since the Alaska summit? Minimal. Impasse? Complete. That is the conversation from G20 to Geneva.
Well, the plan, the 28-point plan, has a number of important elements which are essential to a just and lasting peace, and that's what we all want. There is more to do on the plan, and we've had a meeting this afternoon of like-minded leaders from the Coalition of the Willing, who are here at the G20, to engage on that. And tomorrow in Geneva, there'll be a meeting of senior US personnel, of Ukrainians, and of NSA's national security advisors from Europe, including my national security advisor, to take things further forward.
Putin accuses Europe of warmongering, stalling sincere US efforts despite not moving a needle since Alaska.
Однако мы видим, что после переговоров на Аляске с американской стороны наступила определенная пауза. И мы знаем, что это связано с фактическим отказом Украины от предложенного президентом Трампом плана мирного урегулирования. Полагаю, что именно поэтому появилась и его новая редакция, по сути, модернизированного плана уже из 28 пунктов.
While Europe staunchly backs Ukraine, with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz warning that major powers cannot dictate peace over Ukraine's head without unconditional consent.
Es wird jetzt weitere Beratungen geben aus der Gruppe der E3 und weiterer Vertreter der Europäischen Union sind jetzt die außenpolitischen Berater auf dem Weg nach Genf. Es wird morgen im Laufe des Tages weitere Beratungen in Genf geben mit Vertretern der amerikanischen Regierung und mit Vertretern der Ukraine. Und ich will in diesem Zusammenhang sehr deutlich sagen, eine Beendigung des Krieges kann es natürlich nur dann geben, wenn es eine uneingeschränkte Zustimmung der Ukraine gibt. Kriege können nicht beendet werden durch Großmächte über die Köpfe der betroffenen Länder hinweg.
Meanwhile, President Putin calls the government in Kyiv an illegitimate criminal syndicate, one that he refuses to recognize.
Что такое политическое руководство Украины, мы уже понимаем. Это уже никакое не политическое руководство. С марта прошлого года группа лиц – это преступная группировка, организованное преступное сообщество, которое с марта прошлого года узурпировало власть и под предлогом необходимости продолжения войны с Россией удерживает эту власть на Украине с целью личного обогащения.
The British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, however, who once floated the idea of boots on the ground, has doubled down, asserting that Article 5 guarantees from the United States are essential for peace.
Well, I'm absolutely clear in my mind that President Trump wants a just and lasting peace, not just from the actions he's taken towards that end, but also from the private discussions that I've had with him one-to-one on this issue. So I know what he's trying to achieve. We all want to achieve that, and that is what our focus is. I think it is important to say that one of the elements in the 28-point plan is the security guarantee from the US, Article 5 guarantee. That's about the strongest guarantee that can be put forward.
One thing is clear, all sides are wary to irk Trump, but none are willing to walk the talk.
I would like to get to peace. It should have happened a long time ago. The Ukraine war with Russia should have never happened. If I were president, it never would have happened. We're trying to get it ended. One way or the other, we have to get it ended.
As the Russian winter looms, Zelensky is running out of options.
Не так це все просто, як кажеться, на перший погляд. Війна ще не скоро закінчиться. Поки живий Путін, вона буде довго йти. І поки Європа буде спати, і весь світ буде на це просто так лояльно дивитися, будемо так, я вже м'яко буду говорити, не хочу це, як кажуть, крепких слов по цьому поводу. То таке буде продовжуватися, це не що будемо довго вмирати.
Зараз один з найважчих моментів нашої історії. Зараз тиск на Україну один з найважчих. Зараз Україна може опинитися перед дуже складним вибором. Або втрата гідності, або ризик втрати ключового партнера. Або складні 28 пунктів, або вкрай важка зима. найважча та подальші ризики. Життя без свободи, без гідності, без справедливості. І щоб ми вірили тому, хто напав вже двічі.
Yet Putin mocks illusions of Ukrainian victory, warning of repeats like Kupiansk and blaming Kyiv's refusal for the Alaska pause and the plan's updated 28 points.
Если в Киеве не хотят обсуждать предложение президента Трампа и отказываются от этого, то и они, и европейские поджигатели войны должны понимать, что события, которые произошли в Купянске, будут неизбежно повторяться и на других ключевых участках фронта. Может быть, не так быстро, как нам бы того хотелось, но неизбежно это будет повторяться.
Experts are now dissecting the quagmire to three salient points, from Moscow's new realities demands to Washington's stalled promises and Kyiv's unyielding red lines. At the heart of the plan is the question of territorial lines, NATO status and sanctions. While Zelensky won't cede any land, Putin isn't budging on recognition of gains, while Trump's sole motive is to seek a win before the midterms.
Well, look, the president has already stated that the goals of the special military operations needs to be fulfilled, and these goals have literally not changed in 2022. So that would be the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, the defense of the people who were subjected to the so-called anti-terrorist operation for 8 years by the Kiev authorities, and also neutral status for Ukraine. So that means that everything pertaining to NATO membership has to be off the table.
While Moscow's baseline is locking in the annexation and no NATO for Ukraine, there lies Washington's predicament: inability to bargain Ukraine's sovereignty.
Donald Trump claimed he could end the Ukraine war in his first day in office. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And it didn't happen because especially the Ukraine side and the U.S. under Biden were clinging to some myths. First of all, they believed that if the West, if U.S. and NATO kept providing arms and funding, then Ukraine would be able to win back the territory that the Russians had taken. That was always a pipe dream. There was no way Ukraine was going to do that. The second prevailing myth was that if Russia prevailed in Ukraine, then it would gobble up one piece of Europe after another. Putin does not have any appetite for gobbling up more of Europe. He doesn't have some grand vision to recreate the Soviet Union. He sees Ukraine as a special case, and the Russian military has not done very well. It's doing better now. So, but these ideas that the NATO was clinging to and Zelensky was perpetuating were slowing down the progress.
From Alaska's false dawn to Geneva's grit, Trump's summits have yielded only drafts and no resolutions. Now his new deadline increases questions if this is just a last gasp before holidays turn to hard lines. Irrespective of the deadlines, Kyiv's stance is unchanged since Alaska. No territorial giveaway and full sovereignty.
Well, it's not very easy question, but in general, Ukrainian red lines are the next. Independence and sovereignty of Ukraine must be preserved by this agreement, and Russia cannot have a vote on Ukrainian future inside of European Union and NATO. Ukraine will not recognize official or unofficial occupied lands like Russian lands, and Ukraine is still demanding the strong security commitments, strong security guarantees, which also must include the collective defense principle, not only assurances about the future military supplies. So we have these three big pillars of red lines. Other topics and other points of that Trump's peace plan could be discussed, of course.
Meanwhile, Moscow is betting on time, with Trump entering the crucial midterms year in 2026. For now, the priority in Washington's eyes is a minimal freeze, partial sanctions relief for de-escalation, no full NATO membership, and ambiguity on territorial question.
It's very important that Ukraine not be humiliated, that it doesn't look like a total surrender on Ukraine's part, because we want this agreement to hold. And if the Ukrainians feel that they were forced to capitulate, then they're going to try to find ways to resist and to sabotage this agreement. So I think that Dmitriev, Lavrov, Putin, and others understand that they've got to give Ukraine the ability to save face, to say that it got some of the things that it wanted also. But clearly, this agreement is largely one-sided in favor of Russia.
November 27 nears. Trump's deadline isn't just ink on paper. It's a fragile thread holding back together another year of carnage. Can Trump's 28 points forge peace or fracture further? As Ukrainians endure a winter in doubt, Putin continues to loom with threats and Europe unyielding in support. November 27th may just end up being just another deadline.
Well, that's all that we could pack in this edition of Looking Forward. Hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we did putting it together. We'll be back next Sunday getting you more stories.